afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome Dr. Prakash Katakam, sir, a scientist and a professor with PhD in pharmaceutical sciences. He has had a total research and training experience of 23 years, published over 120 research articles, and 9 Indian patents. His current research focus is on 3D printed fast dissolving tablets for personalized drug delivery, biomedical and pharmaceutical applications of 3D printing technologies. Due to the possibility of various materials utilization, 3D printing methods have wide range of applications in medicine. Example, to build spatial systems used in tissue engineering as well as in pharmacy. Dr. Prakash sir will elaborate more on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Malini madam. Good afternoon, one and all. I would like to switch off my video so that we can have a detailed view of the actual screen. Thank you.
Sir, you can start the presentation.
Yes, madam. Can you see my presentation, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, my dear friends. And today my main focus is on an introduction to the 3D printing technologies and their applications for exclusively for biomedical as well as pharmaceutical fields. Most of us know about a few general techniques. Number one is sculpturing of the articles or deities and whatever, which is called top-down approach, which is also called as subtractive manufacturing. And we have another technique called bottom-up approach, which is what we are going to discuss today. It is also called additive manufacturing or 3D printing or building a house. All these come under bottom-up approaches. So in the first session, our doctor might have explained you about the basics of this 3D printing technologies. And I will a bit elaborate in detail about those things. So what we know on normal printing of a paper is called 2D printing, which prints on based on X and Y axis. Whereas in 3D printing, along with X and Y axis, a Z axis, that is Z axis, we also call upside or downside, the object will be printed in a physical form. So in 3D printing, we actually print a physical 3D object. Most of us by this time would be much aware of what is 3D printing, all the audience, because so many printers, 3D printers are available in the market. The basic printer, which costs you around, starts from 11,000 to up to 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs, like that. So the basic printer is mainly based on the fused deposition modeling, where the object is printed in general in the in a layer by layer fashion. The object will be printed like putting a paper upon a paper, another paper, so that it makes a bundle, but it looks like a cuboid. In the same way, we can make any object of any shape, any intricate design, internal or external, could be easily made by using 3D printing technology. The main advantage of 3D printing technology is design space. So design is unlimited. The only thing is that how much material you are depositing by layer to make an object. So when you go for a 3D printing outsourcing, they will ask you how many grams of material you want to deposit. Based on that only, they will charge you. They do not bother about the design part or any other things, except how much, what material you are using and how much material you are going to use. So this is how the unlimited applications of this 3D printing takes place. So 3D printing actually happens by layer as is shown in the picture. Initially, a computer CAD model is made using a software, like we have a Blender, we have a free version. Blender is a free version. So using that software, for example, we can design a 3D object like a cup, as is shown in this picture. After making the 3D CAD model, it is converted into a file called .stl file. It is a stereolithography file, which is a starting in the beginning of the 3D modeling. 3D printing technologies, these files have been created, just like our PDF file or DOC file, doc file, or Excel file. So this STL file is a 3D model file. After converting into 3D model file, it is sent to another software where it will slice the object. In the sense, take for example a same cup. This cup, for example, is made of about 100 layers. 100 layers deposited one upon the other. For example, imagining in the same way. So this software, it will ask you how many layers you want. So we can give the input to the system so that it will make so many layers. That's called resolution. So if you want most smooth part, so you have to give more high resolution slicing. So once we send the information, the slicing software will divide it into, for example, 100 slices. So after that, the material used will be printed layer by layer using this machine. For example, it's a fluid fused deposition modeling machine. After that, finally, we get an object in this fashion. Coming to the advanced manufacturing, actually, the 3D printing is also called as additive manufacturing or rapid prototyping, and there are so many terms are used. When it comes to advanced manufacturing, apart from making tools or just making toys and all, we have, for example, Airbus. Airbus is making a hangar. Hangar means where an aeroplane is placed. Shed for the Airbus is entirely made from a 3D printer. Also, nowadays, any object could be made by using any size of the printer. So, for example, in civil engineering, they are using big printers, a size of a house, to print a house. In the space, US astronauts are trying to make objects in the space at zero gravity. So, for example, if any tool is missing or any extra thing is needed in the space, we may just easily print by using that raw material. So, for example, in the spacecraft, the astronauts need not carry each and every tool what they want in their mission. So instead of that, they simply carry some powder material of a metal or a plastic or any other materials to be 3D printed, and they will then, in the space itself, they will print the necessary or required tool. So this is one of the advanced application for 3D printing. Coming to the medical procedure, dentists, it has become very popular nowadays. Dentists, they're just printing the tooth by using a 3D printer. Also, orthopedicians, they're making custom made. Custom made means as per our anatomical feature or structure. They are making, they're designing such, for example, a broken bone for a particular person. It will vary with person to person. So they will take the images of that broken bone, and they will fabricate using additive manufacturing technique. Here is an example of a man who lost his part of the skull due to accident. So what they did is they have made an image of MRI image of this particular skull, and they identified where exactly the broken part is existing. So that particular part they have printed using some polymer or hydroxyapatite bone-based materials, biopolymers, and they printed the exact shape of the broken part, and they have attached it to that particular person. This is an example to give you an idea about how a 3D printing technology can be applied in biomedical engineering. These are few other examples where we can print any orthopedic part or a dental part using 3D printing technologies. The most important part of the 3D printing technology is the materials what we use. So it depends upon the application where we need. For example, you take the metallic materials, like any metal you can take, starting from steel, carbon steel, stainless steel, aluminum, copper, bronze, titanium, nickel, etc. Similarly, polymers also very popularly used. For example, epoxide, acrylates, nylon, polystyrene, polyester, so on and so forth. And we have resins, polymethyl methacrylate polymers, which is used for SLA technology. And we have other materials like sand, wood, ceramics, etc., starch, even plaster, whatever. You name a material, you can do some research and make it useful for 3D printing purposes using various techniques. And the most important part of this particular presentation is biocompatible materials. So we are actually working on some polymers where we can use them as input for the 3D printing. The most important one is the polycaprolactone. Polycaprolactone is a biocompatible polymer which has a half-life of about 2 years, 1.5 to 2 years in our body. So you can print implants or any body parts which are necessary to be degraded in the body over a period of time. So you can incorporate a drug, or you can make a shape of a particular thing, and like unlike our old method of using some metallic parts to bind the bones, and after 6 months they will operate and remove the metallic parts. Now it is not necessary. So by using this biocompatible and strong materials like polycaprolactone, you can make specific shapes and put it as an implant in the body, and over a period of time they could be degraded. And we have certain combinations of polymers such as polycaprolactone with hydroxyapatite and tricalcium phosphate. These are bone materials actually. So these bone materials are mixed with polymers, biocompatible polymers like polycaprolactone and polypropylene, and they can make whatever shapes we need to have. And we also have tetracalcium phosphate, tricalcium phosphate. All these are bone materials. And of course, natural polymers, most of the researchers are working on it because, as I said, the materials are very important, and we have thousands of materials available in the world today. We can use most of them, but the problem is biocompatibility. So we cannot use all the materials for biomedical and pharmaceutical purposes. So what we are doing is in our laboratory, we are doing research on identifying some natural polymers and converting them to 3D printable materials. Of course, most of us know about this, the advantages of 3D printer. It is easy to use, very economical, can be operated anywhere in the laboratory, hospital, or you can operate remotely also. And you can train the students very easily. It is affordable. All these are main examples of advantages. In the early stages of development of 3D printing technologies, the first machine was commercialized as early as 2009. That means it's a very recent technology. After 2012, it has become very, very popular when this 3D printing technology has become off patent. That means the printers what we see in the market today are generic printers, so anyone can make it. There are so many videos and all available how to make a 3D printer by yourself in the home as well. So that means it has become off patent. Nobody will ask you if you prepare a printer at your home. So like that, so many local made 3D printers are coming into the market, and the prices have very drastically came down. In 2014, for example, if you want to buy a printer, simple printer, it would have costed you about 2 lakhs. Today, it will cost you about 12 to 15,000 only. The CAD softwares to design a 3D model, these are available in the market. Some are paid, some are freely available, outsourced, or you can use whatever according to your need. So basically, we should have a knowledge of how to draw a 3D model using these software. Like we have Autodesk, 3D Slash, Photoshop, Sculpt GL, Tinker CAD, OpenSCAD. OpenSCAD is a free one. AutoCAD, Rhino 3D, and Blender. Blender, OpenSCAD, these are free software. After making the 3D model, we will, as I said we will send the model to print, just like how you prepare a paper, type a paper in the document format, and send it to a HP LaserJet printer. HP LaserJet printer has its own software. Like that, these 3D printers also have their printing software or slicing softwares. These are Cura, Craftware, 123D Catch, Tinkercad, etc. American Society for Testing of Materials is a highest standard for materials in the world. So for every material that is available, man-made material that is available in the world has been given certain standards. So recently in 2017, ASTM has given classification of additive manufacturing technologies or 3D printing technologies. Earlier we had only 2, 3, 4 classifications, but we have about now 7 categories of additive manufacturing or 3D printing. It will come under the category of ASTM standard F42. The first one is VAT polymerization, which is also well known. Most of you may be aware of that. They are well known as stereolithography. And binder jetting, which is also called as inkjet printing. And we have material, like binder jetting, we have metal jetting. Actually, binder jetting is originally called as 3D printing. So earlier 3D printing has started with binder jetting. Then material jetting. Material jetting means instead of a binder is sprayed, a material is sprayed to make the object, which is also called drop and demand. We have powder bed fusion. In that, powder bed is fused using laser beam. And material extrusion. Actually, I wanted to discuss these things in a little bit detail in the next slide. That's why I'm going a little faster here. Material extrusion, which is also well known as, we all know about this material extrusion, that is fused deposition modeling, where a plastic material will be molten and deposited in the liquid form. After it gets dried off, we get the dry solid material. And the sixth one is the direct energy deposition, where a laser beam is used to, just like welding, a laser beam is employed here to melt the material and deposit, like metals, for example. And finally, we have sheet lamination. Sheet lamination means, first, let us imagine that, we want to print a cup using a paper. Okay. So the cup has certain thickness, say, for example, 0.5 centimeter. That means half centimeter. So based on that one, we will cut the paper in the shape of rings. So rings in that particular shape at the particular distance. So what happens when you place the ring one upon the other, you will get the shape of a cup, and we will bind those sheets using some glue or some material. So here in this particular 3D printing technology, we do not use any material that is molten. We just use the sheet of the material that is cut in a specific shape. So a bunch of sheet materials which are cut at a specified size and shape, they will make a 3D object. That's what about sheet lamination. Let's see one by one very briefly. VAT polymerization, which is also known as stereolithography. It uses UV light or DLP light. DLP light means most of you well known about projector, DLP projector. The same projector light is used to cure the resin materials. Here what happens, a vat or a tub consisting of a liquid resin. Okay, the liquid resin, the light source will be here in the top or bottom, whatever, depending upon the model. The light, for example, UV light is focused at a particular top layer. So the material will be cured. The material that is present in the liquid, the resin will be cured. That means it gets hardened only that particular small thickness of layer. After that happens, slowly the material will come down to fraction of millimeter, for example 100 microns. After that, once the material comes below the liquid passes on to the material, that comes on to the material. Again the light will be flashed. Once the light is flashed, again the material will become two layers, and again one step it will come down in the z-axis or downside. So ultimately what happens, I can show you demonstration also in the end of the session if time permits. So it so happens that the tub containing resin material, depending on the design, it will come down slowly layer by layer, and each layer will be cured by UV light or DLP light. You can see in the bottom left side, the material is coming down slowly. So once the material gets solidified, it will attach to the previous layer, and once it forms, it totally forms an object which looks like coming out from a liquid. So the most important point, critical parameter here is the light wavelength and the material that we are using. The most commonly used material is polymethyl methacrylate resin, which is sensitive to UV light. Once UV light is applied, it will become solidified. The binder jetting is very popularly used for in pharmaceutical for making fast dissolving tablets. In general, a tablet is made usually by preparing powder of drug as well as other inert materials, making a substantial amount of the quantity of the material. Then the material is converted into the granule shape. I'm just talking about the conventional method of manufacturing of tablet. So the powder mixture is converted into, first it is converted into granules of desired size. Then they are compressed using high force, using a die and piston mechanism in the laboratory. Once the tablet shape is formed, the tablet will be taken out. If there is any coating is needed, they will give a coating. Otherwise, they will supply the tablets directly. For example, Dolo is there, Dolo 650. Dolo 650 is made in this way. There is no coating, only the powder material is converted into granules. Those granules are compressed into tablets, for which there is lot of machinery is required, lot of manpower is required, and lot of wastage of materials could take place during these processes. But using this simple process of binder jetting technology, we can make tablets simply by using two things. Number one, the powder material. Number two, a binder solution. Binder solution usually consists of, for example, gum material, acacia material, what we use in our households. Those gum material or starch paste, those dissolved in the water. Okay, then or the powder itself contains some powder gummy material. Once you spray some water droplets on that, it will become solidified. So the same technology is employed here. Here it contains, typically it contains a powder bed, and depending on the design of the shape of the tablet. For example, the tablet shape is about 10 millimeter of diameter. So this ink will be jetted with a precise quantity of liquid, binder liquid, onto the layer. So in the shape of the tablet layer, it will jet or split the ink. After that, for example 100 microns thickness. Okay, then the material will slowly come down, the solidified material will come down, and new powder material will be spread onto the previous material. Then again ink is sprayed again. So this cycle will be repeated until we get a desired thickness of the tablet, for example 0.5 centimeter. So now the tablet size is 1 centimeter diameter and 0.5 centimeter thickness. So until then, they keep on print layer by layer so that it will ultimately give a shape of a tablet. Material jetting is similar to binder jetting, but in this case, material will be converted into a liquid form first, then it will be passed through these pipes and sprayed or jetted onto the platform to give a specific shape of the material. In 3D printing, one issue is that if you want to print a cuboid structure like a square upon the another square, it is very easy to print. But if you want to print an object which is having, for example, a rabbit upside down, you want to print a rabbit but upside down. What happens? Initially, you will print the ears, layers of the ear, EAR. Okay. Then what happens after printing sufficient size? The object will fall down because now the entire object is standing on the ears of the rabbit. Okay. So once you go to the body part, that means after printing say 5 centimeter height, you will get the body part. So that body part, because of its weight, it may fall down. So to prevent that, they use supporting materials. Supporting materials are just nothing but while we construct a house, we put supporting material scaffolds to protect from falling of the roof. The same way, here also they put some support materials parallelly. After printing the entire material, they will remove the support material and cure the, or we also call this post-processing. In the post-processing, they will remove support materials and the object will be saved. I hope you understand about this. Another technique in 3D printing is powder bed fusion. It is all similar to the earlier processes, but we have used a liquid there. But the same way here, instead of liquid jetting, they use laser beam. So again, the powder is already there. It could be a ceramic powder or a metal powder or a polymeric powder. Depending on the powder characteristics, we apply the strength of the laser beam. So once the laser beam is applied layer by layer, suppose again here also you want to make a tablet using a tablet looks like metallic tablet, for example, or a tool or nut or bolt or any metal part or a bone part, a bone. So layer by layer, what happens? The laser will be jetted onto the material. Once the laser falls on the materials, ends of the materials fuse together to form a sintered object. Sintered means the particles will be fused at the corners, edges, and inside you will have a porous nature. Porous nature means any liquid can pass through those solid structure. So the issue is that once you make a tool or an object using this metallic powder, after completing the process, what they do is they will remove the powder part from the bed. They will remove the powder. They will isolate the tool or the object what we printed. Say for example a bone. After that, the bone, the printed part is not so much strong because it is porous in nature. To make it solidifying, they do post-processing. So by using heating, by using certain temperature, depending on the material we use, so they fuse the particles into a solid structure. So the critical point here is the size of the printed part will be little higher when compared to the final part. So what happens during this post-processing, the part will be shrinked because of removal of those air gaps that are present in the sintered part. This is very popular and very commonly known. Everyone knows about this. Fused deposition modeling, where we have a spool of material or string. Sorry, we call it as filament. So using a machine, the plastic material is first converted into a filament of desired thickness. Usually it is 1.75 millimeter or 2.5 millimeter, something depending on the equipment and specification they are preparing. It is readily available in the market. Those spools are available. Most of the materials will cost us around 600 rupees onwards per 1 kilo. So once you put the spool there and bring the filament through this nozzle, okay, and start the machine, give a design, and ask it to print. So what it does, initially it will heat the filament. Once the filament is heated, the temperature also predetermined. Once the filament is heated, it will be converted into a liquid form. So that liquid form is printed layer by layer in this fashion, what it is given. The white space what is seen just beside the blue color on the left side and right side, they will print support materials. Support material can be the same material or another material. If we use the same material as support material, the infill density will be very less. What is infill density means? Once you make an object, you can make a solid part. Suppose I want to make a how can I say, a cuboid structure. I can make a solid 100% material, 100% plastic material. That means there is no air space inside or outside inside of the cuboid space. If I say 90% infill material means inside there are some pores are designed by the software itself. The software will ask you how much infill material you want. So depending on the command we give, it will take 10%, 20%, 30%, 40% like that. Suppose assume that this material is printed here 100% infill material, that blue color. The white color, we can put it as 30% infill material. That means that will be more fragile and it can be easily removed because it has porous in nature. By using a cutter or a scraper, you can remove the support material after completing the printing. I already told you why the support material is used. If you do not use the support material here, the material, the final product will not look like cuboid. It look like something else. It's a kind of welding technology, direct energy deposition, where laser beam is applied to weld the material. And once the material is welded, say for example any metal, like metal welding process, once the material is heated, it will be converted into liquid form, and that liquid form can be used to print the material. It's the same way, but here we use plastic. In this case, we use laser beam. And mostly this technology is used for ceramics, high melting point substances like ceramics and metals, wires. Finally, sheet lamination, how I told you. So, on the left hand side, if you see the spool of the material is just nothing but a cylinder containing a sheet metal. Okay, sheet of metal or paper or a plastic or ceramic, whatever. So assume that there is a metal sheet wounded on the cylinder, right? So that will be passed through this way and come to the working space. In the working space, that is called build platform. Okay, using laser, it will cut the shape. First, it will cut the shape. Then you will remove the cut part, and it will be welded simultaneously with the previous layer. So, likewise, this material will be coming slowly, and the build platform will be upon building layer by layer. The build platform will come down slowly. Then the material will be deposited in the form of a sheet that is cut into a specific shape. This is a most critical point. Then the material will be bound to the lower material using certain binding material. In this case, they use again laser to bind the material. If it is a paper, they use glue. Okay. If it is a plastic material, they apply heat. Then after that, the used sheet will be coming to the next level, next end, and it will be wounded to the another spool. So these are the various technologies as per the classification of American Society for Testing of Materials. Now coming to the main part of our presentation is biomedical applications of 3D printing. The major applications of 3D printing in biomedical sciences is in tissue engineering and organ printing. Most of the research is going on in this area. It is also called bio-IJP technology. Typically, it looks like this. We all know about tissue culture. So far, tissue culture is made in the two-dimensional direction, but 3D tissue culture is quite different. In using 3D tissue culture, we can make any shape of any organ depending on the need. Let us assume that one of our ear is cut off due to accident. Ear. Okay. So you want to replace the ear, not with the plastic ear, with your own ear. So what happens? Already the ear is lost, you don't have the ear. So what they do is they take the MRI image of the scan, we can also say scan of the right eye, and they reverse it so that it will become the left eye. Okay, 3D model, and that model will be sliced using slicing software, and it will be sent to the 3D printer. It is not the 3D printer what we have seen earlier. It is a bio 3D printer, which typically looks like a syringe. That syringe contains the biological materials and scaffold materials. There are two materials there. One is scaffold material. Scaffold material means it is simply like what I told you before is polycaprolactone. So this scaffold material will print a mesh-like 3D structure of the ear. Okay, scaffold material will support the biological material, because biological material, if you put it on the table, it will fall down and make a single layer. To avoid that, we have to make the biological material to stand like a 3D object. So for that, first we have to print a scaffold material. After printing the scaffold material, we'll put the scaffold material in the bottom, and we will, by using that syringe, we will with a specified quantity of cells, living cells, and certain nutrients, we will supply those nutrients in the form of liquid only, and they will be printed slowly onto the scaffold. Once that is done, the material is penetrated into the all layers in all directions into the scaffold of the ear, and they will incubate it over a period of time. Say for example 15 days or so. Once that is done, the material is converted into its tissue, ear tissue. After that, they will take the ear and fix it to the humans. It is still under research. It's not completed yet, but they are doing some research. Likewise, you can print blood vessels, broken blood vessels, ears, or skin. Anything you can print using this bio inkjet printing. This is an example of commercial bio 3D printing. Here in this picture, you can see the heart is printed. The outer side is a gel-like material outside. It is a scaffold material. They used a gel. Inside, they are printing using a mixture of scaffold as well as biological fluid materials. So here they have prepared a skin structure. We don't use all those 7 technologies in the bio 3D printing. Simply they use simple techniques. One is a laser assisted bioprinter, in which the material is converted into a small globules. Okay, the biomaterials along with cells, it is converted into small globules. Those globules are placed in the collector side. Once they are placed, after some time, they will fuse together to form a physical single layer structure. Likewise, they deposit layer by layer all these globules. After certain time, they'll be fused and converted into a physical form. In inkjet bioprinter, they use two techniques. One is thermal inkjet printer, and second one is piezoelectric inkjet printer. All we know about these technologies, simple techniques. In thermal, they use temperature heater will be there. So once the liquid is heated, it will form a vapor bubble. That vapor bubble will make a globule inside, in which it contains vapor. Outside, it contains liquid material. Once this is deposited onto the substrate, these globules will burst to release the vapor, and after that they fuse together. In the same way, piezoelectric technology actuator is also used in the same way. Instead of heater, here also the same thing happens. The one I told you just before is the extrusion bioprinter, by using a pneumatic pressure, or as physically using a motor piston, or using a screw motor. So either any of these three will give the same result of releasing a thin stream of, it's not like a wire, but it is a thin stream of biological fluid or semi-solid liquid that is coming out of the syringe. This is a publication recently they have printed. All of us know, most of us know that sodium alginate in presence of calcium, it will become a gel, and it becomes calcium alginate gel. So using that technology, along with some gelatin molecules, gelatin is a most common component in our body, and also some living cells. They prepared a shape like this, 3D printed layers. So what they did here, they maintained the air pressure, temperature, all those things. Then they put it in a syringe, and that syringe maintains two temperatures. One is a syringe temperature, and at the bottom another temperature. So that means the platform will have another temperature. Once you place sodium alginate layer along with cells, it will build a structure like this, and the same structure is directly immersed in the calcium chloride solutions. That means anything is coming out of the syringe nozzle or needle. When it falls into the calcium chloride liquid, it will become a gel. So the gel will be structured layer by layer to print an object, what you can see here. Another application of 3D printing technology in biomedical is reconstructive surgery or prosthesis. That means a bit I told you before that restoration of injured or deformed part of the bodies. Okay, even in surgical procedures, any defects or traumas, all these things can be. Another most important thing is that in surgery, before doing the surgery, they want to do a trial run. So a trial run, for example, brain surgery. So we cannot do trial runs for the brain surgery. Okay. So you cannot open the brain and you cannot see what is there inside, and you cannot take a chance that whether this person can live or not. So what they are doing now is they're doing a CT scan of the brain, and then they're converting it into a model, and that model they are doing surgery on that model. Once on that model, if they get succeed, that means they will know how to open the brain and where to do operation, where not to touch. All these things they will get a clear-cut idea before surgery. That's what is there in the second part, that is medical models. And it is already commercialized. 3D printing is already commercialized in orthopedics and dentistry. Nowadays, surgeons are preferring for 3D printed objects. Even in our Usmani University, we have laboratory where they will do 3D print of orthopedic items based on certain designs and MRI scans, and they are supplying nowadays. The materials commonly used are hydroxyapatite. Hydroxyapatite is a bone tissue, and also they use biopolymers like polycaprolactam for bone replacements, and also dental casting. They use precise, exact shape of the dental shape and size. So our teeth also do not match with each other. So far what happens, they are making a generic teeth and putting in the replacing the existing teeth. So another side effects are coming using that particular replacement of the teeth. So that could be avoided, because the same teeth you can replace using the shape and size of our anatomy. In drug delivery, there is tons of research has been started from 2012 onwards. The main advantage of 3D printing in drug delivery is it will revolutionize the manufacturing process. The first point is, usually the tablets, syrups, capsules, all those dosage forms, they are made in batches. Batches means they will prepare 100 kilo now, and tomorrow they will prepare another 100 kilo or 50 kilo based on the need. But using additive manufacturing or 3D printing process, it could be a continuous process. That means 24/7 you can prepare tablets. That is the first advantage. The second advantage is number of unit operations can be reduced. As I told you before in the beginning, how a tablet is made. Milling process, mixing process, granulation process, compression process, all these processes can be minimized. Only milling and mixing is enough. And granulation takes a lot of time, compression takes a lot of time, and energy, machinery, men, people, money, all this could be reduced. And moreover, if a drug is granulated or if it is compressed, it will change its physicochemical properties. So that will affect the activity of the drug and the stability of the drug. So these can be minimized. That means stability can be improved. Activity, pharmacological activity can be maintained properly using these 3D printing technologies. So the main advantage of 3D printing over conventional pharma manufacturing is high production rates. That means you can produce large numbers when compared to the batch wise. Batch wise only limited numbers can be made, whereas in batch continuous process you can make large numbers. And the most important point is high drug loading, which is not at all possible using conventional manufacturing technologies. Suppose you might have well aware of certain tablets like aspirin dispersible tablets. Aspirin dispersible tablet, it contains, say for example, 500 milligram of aspirin, and remaining 500 milligram is inert materials. That means the materials that are needed for it to dissolve in water quickly, and the materials that are needed to make the tablet itself, because aspirin itself cannot be converted into a tablet. So we need another material to facilitate tablet manufacturing process. So what happens, out of 1000 milligram of tablet, we have 500 milligram of drug only, or hardly we can achieve 700 milligram per 1000 milligram of tablet. That means at least we have to use 30 to 40%, 50% of the other materials which are very essential to be put in the tablet. But using 3D printing technology, we can avoid almost 95% of the materials. That, in other words, in another sense, out of 1000 milligram tablet, we can use 950, 970 milligram of the drug. So we can put high doses for the drugs. Say for example, TB drugs. TB drugs are taken by the patients. The dose will be around 1.2 gram, 1.5 gram per tablet. So if you convert it into a tablet, it looks like a very big tablet which you cannot ingest or take orally. You have to crush into 2 pieces or 3 pieces and take the tablet. So these problems could be avoided, and the patients with chronic diseases like TB and cancer patients, for them we can make simple tablets with large doses, and they can dissolve very fast, and you can change the taste. You can give an accessible taste. And for kids with chronic diseases, they have to use everyday tablets. So for them, you can put different shapes of it, like teddy bear shaped tablets or lion shaped tablets or whatever they wish. So using 3D printing, as I told you, your design doesn't matter, only material matters. So material, how much you are putting is important. So that could be controlled. So it has very huge prospects and huge future, especially in personalized medication. Okay, that we'll know in the next slide. So we can reduce the wastage of materials, and we can use large variety of pharmaceutical excipients for poorly water soluble drugs. For example, a drug is poorly water soluble. It cannot be absorbed easily in the stomach or intestine. So for which we can add some material to dissolve the material. Okay, it's very easy. Personalized medication is it's not a new concept. It's a very old concept. For example, in Western countries like US and England or Britain, in Western countries, the doctor prescribes a particular medicine with a specific dose. But in India, if you see, for example, if you and me go with the same disease, say some fever, for example, for me he will prescribe Dolo 400. For you also he will prescribe Dolo 400. Okay, but my body weight is about 80 kilo. Your body weight is 60 kilo. But doctor has no choice but to prescribe the same quantity. So here two scenarios will come. One thing is, for me, the dose could be lesser than what I need based on my body weight. For you, the dose could be higher than what you need. So in both cases, in my case, the drug is not acting properly. My fever is not getting reduced. But in your case, your fever may be reduced, but other side effects are coming, like gastritis, kidney failures, liver problems. All these are the side effects. You take metformin. Most of the patients after 40 diabetes, they take metformin 500 mg, 1000 mg, they take. So it's all no rationality in that. So actually, the dose should be calculated based on so many other parameters, like how our liver is functioning, how our kidneys function. Based on that, you have to adjust the dose. Say, for example, in my case, I have diabetes, I have kidney problem, and I have to use. I'm suffering from cancer, for example. If the doctor prescribes the cancer drug, he has to consider all these things and all these parameters. Okay, pathological other parameters, and he has to tell the pharmacist to give a specific quantity of the drug. Say the quantity is 125 milligram. Okay, but in the market, the drug is available, tablet is available 200 mg or 50 mg. Okay, it doesn't have a dose of 125 milligram. So what a pharmacist will do, pharmacist will calculate exact dose based on the prescription, and he will print the drug using 3D printing technology. He will print the drug for 1 month. For example, the patient needs 60 tablets. Okay, 60 tablets are printed at once within 5 minutes using 3D printing technology, using exact dose. So the future will be like this, something like this. Every pharmacy or every big hospital will have 3D printers, and there are so many cartridges are available. Cartridges means ink. Ink means the drug products in the form of powder or in the form of liquid or whatever form. Okay, if the patient comes with a prescription, he will simply print it and give you. So the future is manufacturing is decentralized to the pharmacies and hospitals. This will be the future of personalized medication. So the ultimate, in other words, the manufacturing process, what we are seeing in now, will not be there in the future. Okay, everything is personalized. So the medicine will be manufactured in the pharmacy, or maybe, I don't know, in the homes as well. Okay, but legally it is not correct. But hospitals or pharmacists, in the presence of a technician like pharmacy fellow, has to do all these things. So these are the major advantages. It will reduce the doses, it will reduce the adverse effects or side effects, it will optimize the therapeutic efficacy, and it will enhance the patient acceptance. Okay, if the tablet is bitter, the drug is bitter, you can You can add some flavor of desired flavor. One kid want orange flavor. I want chocolate flavor. You want lemon flavor. All these can be added to the same drug for the same dose or another dose. This is a great advantage. This picture shows the workflow of how a personalized medication works. First, based on the laboratory examination, doctor will decide what is the treatment plan. Then we have a previous studies on this. We will have previous studies based on the research how drug should be programmed. That means you want an immediate release, you want a slow release tablet, or so on. Then the design part will be taking place in the system, and CAD model is prepared. That CAD model is sent as an STL file to the printer. The printer will print so many things. For example, oral tablets, it can print. See, it has less density. That means infill material is lesser here. You can see here in this picture, oral tablet, it is not solid. It is having some pores inside. That means the infill material could be around 50% here, 50 or 40%. So it is porous material. Then you can make a transdermal patch. You can make rectal or vaginal suppositories. Okay. You can make scaffolds containing drugs that can be placed under the skin or inside the body to release the drug in a slow fashion. Or you can print implants or custom made implants for a particular patient based on his anatomical parameters. Or surgical meshes. You can print surgical meshes and place it on the wounds, and intravenous devices like stents. Stents, what we see in the market now are generic stents. Suppose I want a specific shape or a specific diameter, that can be printed. These are the advantages both for pharmaceutical as well as biomedical fields.
Excuse me, sir.
Sir, Chapandi.
I will have a small break, sir, for 3 minutes.
Okay.
And in the meantime, the participants can fill up the attendance of the session 3.
Okay.
So the link is provided in the chat box.
How much time I have still? 3:45.
Sir?
Till what time we can continue?
So 3:30 only. Only 3 minutes, sir. Only 3 minutes.
No, sir. After this,
Yeah. 3:45, sir. 3:45.
45 minutes is there, no? Okay, sir. Because I want to give some demonstration also. So,
Yes, sir. 3:45.
is it audible? Am I audible properly?
Yes, sir. It's fine. Okay, sir. If you are ready, we can start, sir.
Okay. So coming to pharmaceutical field, the following technologies are popularly used. Number one is inkjet printing. Most of these techniques we have already discussed. Just I want to show you which techniques are most popularly used. Direct wire is something like direct energy deposition thing where a polymer wire is melted and printed. Zip dose technology is a patented technology. It looks like similar to inkjet printing, but zip dose contains large doses of drug that can be printed. It has been actually pioneered by Aprecia Pharmaceuticals. They are the pioneers of this inkjet printing. They kept the name as zip dose technology. Then thermal inkjet printing is similar to the one which we discussed before. FDM is very popular technique. FDM is now becoming more popular. There are two technologies which are being tried to get commercialized. The first one is already commercialized, that is inkjet printing using zip dose technology, where the powder bed is sprayed with an binder solution, and layer by layer a tablet is built. Fuse deposition modeling is similar to the printers that are present in the market, where polymer material is mixed with drug material. Okay, we use certain polymers like polyvinyl alcohol or polyethylene glycols. So these materials are mixed with the drug and they are converted into filaments, and those filaments are fed to the FDM printer and tablets are made. Okay, Merck is the company which is now doing a lot of research to commercialize this FDM technology. These are some examples available in the literature. Just to note a few. Guaifenesin is a drug used for cough purpose. They made a tablet using desktop printer. And levofloxacin is antibiotic. They made an implant that could be inserted into the body cavity or under the skin. They used inkjet printer here. Okay. Then thermal inkjet printer is also used. The dosage form is a solution. Salbutamol sulfate was the drug. And nanoparticles of rifampicin. Rifampicin is an anti-TB drug. So they used inkjet printer to make nanoparticles. So the dosage form could be anything, not necessarily tablet itself. It could be a capsule, tablet, or nanoparticle, anything. So this screen explains you that the first US FDA approved drug in the world is levetiracetam. Is a tablet. Its brand name is Spritam. It has been being manufactured by Aprecia Pharmaceuticals. Way back 2015, first time it came into the market. So far, there is no other product available in the market. So there is huge scope for pharmaceutical scientists and biomedical scientists to do some research and come out with a innovative product which could be easily accepted by the regulatory authorities. So that is the advantage. Typically, I told you in the just before that polyvinyl alcohol with glipizide. Okay, polyvinyl alcohol is a polymer, biopolymer, and it is mixed with the glipizide. And using single screw extruder, they feed the material powder. It has a heating facility here. Once the material is heated, it will be converted into liquid. That liquid is drawn outside to make a filament. Okay. That filament is fed to the normal FDM printer. That printer will print the tablet in this fashion. So in this model, you can see 3D printing, using this design contains a tablet in the tablet. Okay. The outer tablet will release the drug very fast, and the inside tablet, it will release the drug slowly. So you can have this kind of release patterns. So you can see in the picture dissolution profile that the drug is released fastly in the beginning, and later on a sustained release profile is observed. So these are the 3 tablets that they printed. By changing these compositions, PVA composition and drug composition, they have printed 3 tablets where you will get this type of drug release profile fashions. Based on the materials for pharmaceutical and biomedical industry, the 3D printing materials are for extrusion purpose. Extrusion means using FDM technologies. We use thermoplastics, edible materials, eutectic materials. And wire, we don't use iron wire, but we use some metal titanium alloys to print the bone materials as well as teeth materials. So, if the material is granular in nature, and we have titanium alloys, cobalt, and stainless steel, aluminum, these are the materials that could be used. And we have plaster-based 3D printing also. For that, the materials are plaster. Laminated object manufacturing, we use paper, metal foil, or plastic film. In DLP processing of, which is also called SLA, we use photopolymers like polymethyl methacrylate. What are the advantages and disadvantages of 3D printing in pharmacy and biomedical engineering? The advantage is it reduces the prototyping costs and development time with the ability to create complex geometries with sufficient accuracy. The disadvantage is loss of jobs, but I don't think this is a correct word to be mentioned here. Even when computers came in the market in way back 80s, everyone told that there are lots of jobs for normal people, normal accountants and all. But today, with the advancements in technologies as well as need for the people, there is a lot of demand for computer professionals. In the same way, in the coming years, a lot of demand will be there for biomedical and pharmaceutical scientists and graduates to work on 3D printing technologies. Another major challenge is regulatory part. So it is very easy to make an object, but to get regulatory approval is not easy. So all the faculty who are related to the fields of biomedical as well as pharmaceutical in the industry, they all know about this. So we can make a tablet easily, we can build a human object easily, but to get the regulatory approvals is not easy. So that is a major challenge. Then comes optimization and improvement of software performance. So the software that is available now in the market is not so flexible. So we have to customize our software to make our according to our needs to design particular objects. Already some excipients are there in the market which can be used for 3D printing purposes, but those excipients, all excipients do not have desired properties, like melting point is one thing and binding nature. All these things are not there for all materials. That's what I told you. We are actually working on cellulose polymers. So cellulose polymers have some advantages, like binding nature is there, but they have poor melting properties. They burn off or they degrade at a particular temperature. Instead of melting, they degrade. So these problems should be solved by exploring to identify new polymers or semi-synthetic polymers or synthetic polymers which are biocompatible and biodegradable. And manufacturing technologies also should be developed. That means the conventional manufacturing technologies for tablets and other dosage forms do exist in the market, but for new technologies like ZipDose technology, it is patented by Aprecia, and it will enjoy the patent until 2025. Sorry, 2030. So you cannot make the similar product, similar equipment what Aprecia Pharmaceuticals has made to make the tablets. You have to design another equipment to get your product. So this is one obstacle, challenges we have. And of course, anything should be clinically proved, whether it is a biomedical product or pharmaceutical product. We have to prove clinically that it is safe and effective in the humans. and initially in the animals, later on in the humans. So we have to do a lot of preclinical testing and clinical testing, which is very much finance intensive procedure. It will cost very high money, huge quantities of finance. So in conclusion, 3D printing technology definitely opened a new era in the pharmaceutical, medical, basically you can say medical, pharmaceutical, dental, biomedical, whatever you say. It has opened a new area of research and a revolution in the product development, and it will definitely go through a next level. So far, it is one of the technologies under what do you say, Industrial Revolution 4. Okay, so 3D printing is going to be, as already became Industrial Revolution 4.0. So more focus will be on personalized medication or customization of medical devices and drugs. So this is the core area of future research for 3D printing technology for biomedical, medical, as well as pharmaceutical fields. This is our publication in 2015. It has been published in Critical Reviews. Recently, our book chapter has been accepted by Taylor and Francis, which is title is Recent Advancement of Additive Manufacturing for Patient-Specific Drug Delivery. If time permits, I would like to give a few demonstrations on how our videos, how these technologies work for biomedical as well as pharmaceutical field. This is a place I'm a frequent visitor of Belgrade University as visiting professor, and we have collaboration for 3D printing technologies with them and polymeric materials. So we are working on 3D printable polymeric materials using our team members here. Thank you for your valuable time.
So if you have any demos, you can show, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, can I ask a question?
I wish to show. Yeah, please.
Has a cartilage, knee cartilage, been 3D printed?
We need to have stem cells. We need to have stem cells, specific stem cells, and those stem cells could be triggered to be converted into a cartilage.
Okay. Are you aware of the
Actually,
process,
I'm
sir?
not working in that area, to be frankly. But according to my perception, we should have stem cells compulsorily, and we should have a modulator which will take it to a next level. What it should become? It should become an eye layer or a skin layer or a blood vessel or heart vessel or tissue. So that trigger mechanism we have to identify and put it in the that liquid, printing liquid.
Sir, do you know of anyone who's working in this area?
In BMS College of Engineering, Karnataka, where I have collaboration with them also, they are making bio inks. That means to print organs and tissues. You may contact them.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, any more questions? So let us have a questionnaire. Then after we can have the demo, sir. Yeah, participants.
Okay, then.
Any more questions? Or
Meanwhile, participants can have some questions. No problem.
yes, Sachin Shindesi, please ask your question.
Yes, sir. Could you go to the slide where you are showing about the 3D printing of the biomaterial, the printers? I guess bioprinters you were saying. No, I would like to ask that question. I think it was a slide with the green. Yes, sir. Sir, I wanted to know about the steam bubbles that you were talking about. Aren't those steam bubble after laying create a problem for settling? How does the steam get exactly?
No, we need that. We need bursting.
So I didn't get you.
See, the steam bubble is used to make the like how we make air bubbles. Okay.
Correct.
So once the bubble is bursted, the material is
Yeah.
deposited.
Agreed, but the moisture content of the bubble when it settles down, does not it create while holding the material or when it gets settled?
It is actually controllable air bubble. That means
Controllable air bubble. Okay.
yes, it all depends on the material and how much temperature you are applying, and after falling, how much time it is taking to burst. Is it slowly bursting or rapidly bursting? Or as you said, once it bursts, it will split the material elsewhere, not on the platform. Okay.
Correct.
So what they do is they will adjust the parameter so that it will burst slowly. I can show you one video regarding that. Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, Mr. Sachin. Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Sachin,
Mr.
we
Sachin
have a
Singh.
video. If there is time permits, I can show you that video also. How it bursts and how it deposits. Okay. Anybody else?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
One question, sir, regarding the infilling density.
Infill
Like,
density.
for bioprinters, the tissue will be of different densities. Say, for example, if it is a bone replacement, the shaft of the bone will be more denser than the articulating end part.
Yes, ma'am.
So, in the bioprinter technologies, whatever you have discussed so far, is there any facility like wherein we can have these variation possible within the same prototype?
Madam, there are two things we need to discuss here. One thing is we need a scaffold where infill density should not be 100%. After some time of completion of the tissue formation process, the scaffold should get dissolved. Okay, that is number one. Number two is take an example of a bone. Okay, bone also has, it should be porous, right?
Yes.
Why it should be porous means after putting the, for example, titanium or stainless steel rod, which should have an infill density of say 50%. Okay,
Yes.
that 50% infill density containing steel rod, when it is placed or replaced in the body, it will start there are chances of growing of bone marrow materials. Okay, to
Okay.
facilitate that, they will create infill gaps. That is number one. Number two reason is the steel rod, which weighs about say one kilogram, but the bone weighs the same size bone where you are replacing. The last bone weighs about 500 milligrams. You are unnecessarily putting 500 grams. You are unnecessarily putting extra quantity of the weight in your body. So
Yes.
to reduce that, we can reduce the infill density. Madam,
Like,
am I
will
able
that satisfy the mechanical characterization for that bone
yes,
performance wise?
that is one reason. Second reason is to facilitate growth of tissues in those gaps.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am?
Tissue infiltration. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Like, you mean to say that within the same design, like there is a chance based upon the selection of the percentage of infilling density,
Yes.
you can create the denser part of the same prototype and as well as the porous part also.
Exactly. And you can tell that the top layer should be 100% density and inside it should be 30% density, something like that.
That's okay.
And
So
also
in the
you can-
program itself, we can design that.
Also, ma'am, you can design what should be the characteristics of the pores. Is it hexagonal or it should be like simply porous or irregular porous? All these things can be designed in the computer
Okay.
using
Thank you,
3D modeling software.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the wonderful session. It was very informative. And at the same time, we got to know about many things pertaining to the biomedical applications.
Thank you.
3D printing, yes, in general, we have an idea. But like coming to the biomedical part, like what all the applications are possible with this, all those things we came to know from your session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Can I have a few? Anyone else?
Yes, participants, any more questions? So if there are no other questions, sir,
Sir,
will you give the demo, sir? You're
I'll
saying
try
some
to.
demo.
Okay. Just a moment. First of all, I would like to show how this ZipDose technology works. Is it visible? Is it visible? Harish,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is.
is this video visible?
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
You can see a tablet a size of 2 to 3 centimeter diameter is a normal tablet which is available in the market on the right side. Left hand side is ZipDose technology. It is taking about 6 seconds, 7 seconds. It's going on. Whereas ZipDose technology has released within 3-4 seconds. This is number one. Next one is I told you that Merck is working on FDM technology of making tablets. So this one is printing of a theophylline tablet using FDM technology, that is normal machine, normal printer, what is available in our labs or in at home. Somewhere I'll push the speed, okay? It is started printing. It is actually dual extruder. Is it visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
It has made the tablet. It is actually a polymeric material. They made a design. In the design, there are so many parts. There are so many parts inside the design. So the powder is sprayed layer by layer, spreaded, and laser beam is impinged onto the powder with specific shape. So after completion, along with powder, the model also will come out. So post processing is a little bit difficult here. You have to remove all this powder material. It is a metal powder or a polymeric powder, whatever. So they made 3 models. They removed the powder using vacuum. That's it. This is a SLA printer. So at the bottom, there is a inside that orange box is there, no? Inside the box, there is another orange box. That orange box contains resin material. Okay. Am I audible, sir?
Yes,
Hello?
sir. Yes.
Ah.
Yes, sir.
And the one which is moving up and down is a building platform. So the object will be inverted actually. It will be printed in an inverted fashion. You can see later on. I'm just doing fast forwarding. See this material they want to print. How it works. They have taken. This is the bottom one is a tray containing resin material. They made a model here. This is support. Earlier I told you something about support material. So this gray materials, what you see, those are support materials. The top one is a flower. Okay. They put the material.
You can see the laser passing back and forth inside, hardening the liquid plastic.
Okay.
We'll take our printout and wash it in rubbing alcohol to get the excess resin off. The flower comes with supports on it.
Support
We'll
material
switch
is
them
being
off to
removed.
finish the piece. Stereolithography is
Likewise, you can make any materials. In dental field, they are popularly used this particular technology. I want to show you something about organ printing.
I'm Dr. Banasser in my lab. The head image of precisely map out the
So, for example, this scanning has been done using a scanner. 3D scanners are available in the market. So they scan the ear here.
The next kind
Then-
of key step is developing the ink for this printer. This ink,
This is the ink. It is called bio ink. Earlier, one madam was asking about this. So these bio inks, they contain cells, living cells, and nutrient materials, and gel forming materials. So this ink will be printed in the scaffold. See.
power of the printing technique is that it can be used to make geometries that you just can't make with any other technique. You can make parts with holes in them. We can layer and cover and put different cells next to each
So
other.
this ink may also contain scaffold material inside itself, like gelling material. So they made this ear and they will incubate it
The implants that we're
to be
making,
converted into
are
a
not
real
rubber
ear.
or plastic. They are aligned. Which is over. The body accepts these materials like it's part of the body because it is. Our long-term goals are to
The main advantage of this 3D printing, bioprinting is that there is no question of rejection of the external body parts. For example, if you do a kidney transplantation or liver transplantation, there is a chance of rejection and the patient may die over a period of time. But in this case, the same cells from the same person will be taken. So there is no chance of
change the way
rejection.
that the give by real tumor for decades.
Yes, Chandana, do you have any doubt? Miss Chandana, ma'am.
Hello?
Hello. Any other participants? Are there any questions to the speaker?
There was a little break in the last video. I'm sorry for that.
Yeah. There are no other questions by the participants. Okay, sir.
Sir.
Hope there are no other questions from the participants.
Okay. Someone
Thank you
is
very much, sir, for your very
thank
informative
you.
lecture.
Yeah.
Hope this has given brief idea of how to print and the materials used, and also these videos are also very good, sir.
Thank
Just
you.
giving us a glimpse of what happens in the machine and the extruder.
Sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for your.
Let me also thank you, Mr. Dr. Harish, and also special thanks to Dr. Malini Madam, Dr. Suman sir, and Dr. Vidyasagar. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to express my knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We'll collaborate in future, definitely.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Thank
Okay,
you so
ma'am.
much.
Thank you
Good
so
day.
much. Good day. Thank you. Can I quit, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Please. Please.
Sir. I hope everybody has marked the attendance. So this attendance is very important as specified by the AICTE.
Session 1 attendance, actually I have attended, but in the last 10 minutes the light was, I lost my power.
No,
So
don't
I
bother.
guess the form I was not filled it.
Yes, Sachin, don't bother about the first inaugural session. We'll take the Google
Yeah.
Meet attendance. But from tomorrow, we'll not be able to allow any participant if you are going to join beyond 5 minutes. The reason is it is creating disturbance, and continuously we have to be admitting you people. So I want all the participants to join within 5 minutes of starting of the presentation. And as specified, and I'm again reinforcing, you need to maintain an attendance of 80%, and you have to score 60% in the examination which we are going to hold on 12th November afternoon.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, ma'am. I'm aware
Please,
of that.
all the participants, please bear in mind.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
Please cooperate. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Ma'am, will you be sharing the videos?
Yeah, as if we'll be doing that. So whoever speaker is going to share with us, we'll just pass them on to you. No problem from our side.
Okay.
Harish, that's it for today, isn't it?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's it for
Yes,
today.
Harish.
We will meet tomorrow at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, tomorrow's session is starting at 10 o'clock. Please join the link by 10 o'clock.
So the same link will be there for the tomorrow sessions also. So the same link you have to join to the Meet, Google Meet. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Ah, 1920. అవును.
All are requested to leave the meet. All are requested to leave the meet now. So we'll meet tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thank you.